If you want to make your 2007 to 2013 Silverado or Sierra 1500 feel a bit more modern and make it that much better to live with, then the Amp Research PowerStep running boards will be just the right fit for you. These are the side steps that have it all: good looks, capability, flexibility, and a great wow factor. And they're a great way to get some extra access and protection on your truck with essentially no sacrifice. Now, a quick note on fitment here before we dive in. This kit is designed to fit 2007 to 2013 Silverado and Sierra 1500 extended cab and crew cab trucks. Now, we talk about a lot of side steps around these parts, but Amp Research's PowerStep running boards are not your typical side steps by any stretch of the imagination. These are, as the name indicates, a power step. They're designed to deploy the moment you open the door, and it's a very cool party trick. Now, the benefit of a power step like these is twofold. When they are extended, they drop much lower than a traditional fixed side step, meaning that you have better access to the cabin. And when they're retracted, they sit up closer to the rocker panels, creating more ground clearance and a super clean look. Since nothing is hanging down low in a fixed position like a more traditional side step or running board, having these on has almost no impact on your overall ground clearance or breakover angle when they're closed. So if you do some more challenging off-roading or overlanding, there's less of a chance of these getting snagged on something, and they're going to provide your rocker with similar protection to a smaller side step or even a rock slider. Now, these deploy almost immediately upon opening the door. Honestly, by the time you've got it opened even a small amount, the boards are down in their lowered position. And when you close the door, they stay down for 3 seconds before retracting. Now, if you want additional control, there is a manual override switch you can get that allows you to manually control the boards whenever you want. These also have a couple of other party tricks up their sleeves. Now, the steps feature a 600-pound weight capacity, so they can handle pretty much anything you could think of to throw at them. And they will automatically stop if they detect an obstacle when opening or closing. So the boards and motors aren't going to get damaged, and you're not going to get your foot crushed in them. They also feature a set of LED lights for each board, so that's going to help illuminate the ground and the boards themselves and make that stepping surface much safer and easier for you to access your truck no matter what conditions you might encounter. The steps are constructed using die-cast aluminum, which is anodized and then finished off with this military-grade PTFE coating. The step surface is a massive 6 inches wide and features a textured black powder coating over top for extra grip as well. Plus, you've got all the brackets, the wiring, the motors, the control module here, and they come with a 5-year limited warranty for some additional peace of mind. Now, when it comes to the price, remember how I say you really don't have to sacrifice anything? Well, this is the part where we have to talk about that. This is the only place really where you have to sacrifice anything. Coming in at about $2,000, these command a premium price, but they are certainly a premium option. And in my book, if you've got the room in your budget to get these, they make a great addition to any build. It's one of those things that you don't have to do, but if you can afford to spend the money on it, it's going to make living with your truck so much nicer, and it's going to look great when they're installed. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and it should take you around 3 hours to complete the job. Now, there is a bit of wiring you will need to do with the harness and the LED lights in particular, but it's not that intense, really just power and ground here. So just plan on setting some time aside to get this done. Like I mentioned earlier, everything you need short of tools comes included in the kit, so you have everything you need to get going. The arms and motors bolt right on though. So while it's a bit more involved than traditional side steps, the payoff is definitely worth it. Just make sure you set aside a little bit of extra time and patience. We're going to walk you through the installation process step by step, so for that, let's head on out to the shop.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, wire strippers and crimpers, plastic pry tool, scissors or diagonal cutters, 13mm wrench, 10mm ratcheting wrench, an extension, T25 torque socket, 3/16 Allen socket, 7, 10, and 13mm sockets. What's up guys? Today we're installing side steps on our Silverado, so let's get started. So I'm going to get started with our wire harness first. Now we've got the 2 connectors that are going to be going to our battery, as well as the 2 connectors for our controller. Got that over here by the battery. The longer end of the harness is running over to the driver's side, and the shorter end is going to stay on the passenger side here. So before I do anything with the battery, I'm going to pop open the cover on our inline fuse and remove that fuse. And then we'll put that back in at the end once we have everything wired up. So now we're going to come over to our battery, pop the cover off of our positive terminal, and then I'm going to be removing this nut right here with the 10mm socket. And then we're going to slide this connector over the stud and reinstall our nut. take that same 10mm socket, tighten that down. And then we're gonna move on to our negative that's hidden back there. I've got a 10mm ratcheting wrench. Can't really get a socket down in there. Just make sure you don't come into contact with any of the positive part of the battery. Now I threw a plastic pry tool wedged in there because when I took that nut off, the stud slipped down. So now that I'm holding it up, I'm gonna put my negative onto that stud. And then I can thread my nut back on. And I'll grab my 10mm ratcheting wrench and tighten it down. Next, we're gonna hook up our controller to our two connectors, and I'm just gonna tuck this back behind the battery here. Next, we're gonna start running all of our wires down towards the ground. So over here on the passenger side, I'm just gonna go underneath of this bar and then right down through here. It'll go straight down to the floor through the fender liner. And now I'm gonna take the harness for the driver's side, and I'm gonna do pretty much the same thing, run it around behind the battery underneath this bar, and then I'm just gonna zip tie it to this harness all the way across to the driver's side. So now I'm just gonna take some zip ties, run it behind that pre-existing harness and around our new one. And then you can take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters and cut off the excess. So now we're going to run our driver's side harness down towards the ground. Now, one quick thing to note is we have our two trigger wires for the door being open switch. Now this white and black one, if you have a crew cab, you're going to be running this down to the ground with this blue one. You're going to put it up through a grommet in the floor and then wire it in right next to the driver's seat. Now we have an extended cab, so on ours, this one I'm gonna put through this grommet right back here because that's gonna have to go into our door to wire up. So this blue wire isn't gonna be used for the extended cabs, but if you do have the crew cab, you will need this one. So I'm gonna get this going through this grommet right down here to the right of the brake booster, and that'll go into the cabin. And I'm just gonna hop in there and pull it the rest of the way through. And now I'm just pulling that wire through from the other side. And now that we have that one going into the cabin, we can continue with running the rest of our harness down towards the floor. So I'm just gonna go right around the brake booster and drop right down there. That'll put it out in our fender liner. So now we're on the driver's side, right behind the front tire. We have perfect size hole right behind our body mount here to pass all of our wires through to keep it up and out of the way. So I'm just gonna grab the one end of my harness, go up through that hole, pull all my wires through. This connector is gonna be the tightest part, but it can fit through. Now right up here at this grommet, this is where if you have the crew cab, you're gonna poke a hole through this grommet to pass this blue and black striped wire through, as well as the yellow and black stripe that I put through the grommet in the firewall. Now on the passenger side, you don't have this since this is for the parking brake cable. So you're gonna have to drill a 9/32 hole through the floor. I would put some paint pen around here just so that it doesn't rust. And then you're gonna pass your wires through this grommet and put this grommet in its place. And if you wanna keep it extra moisture resistant, you can put some silicone in there to seal it up so no water can get in. Now we're gonna pop off our door panel so we can get in there, find the wire that we need to splice into. So I've got a trim remover tool. Got to pop off this cover, this, and this. Get the bolts behind it, and then we can pop this off. So just take a plastic pry tool and get back behind it. Pop out your clips. Now we're just gonna undo all of our connectors. Push in on the tabs. Wiggle them out. And then this back one has a little clip over here that you need to pick up. Pop that out, set this to the side. Now we need to remove the cover behind our door handle and also up here. So just get back in there with the plastic pry tool, pop them out. Then we can take our 10mm socket. We got 2 bolts behind that cover and 1 bolt behind this cover. If you pull on the door handle, it'll lift up so you can get a straight shot at this one. And now we can pop off our door panel. So you can just grab on the bottom here and just give it a tug, and that should release your clips. If not, we can get in there with the trim panel remover tool and just pry it off. Now, last thing we need to do is just get our trim panel remover tool, pop open this little clip, and then we can lift this off and lift our whole door card off. And now we just need to undo our door cable here. So we're just gonna pop this out of clip, and then you can just lift straight up and remove your door panel. Next, we're gonna remove our speaker so we can get access to our wire harness coming into the door. So we're just gonna lift this up. We've got a 7mm screw here. So take a 7mm socket to remove that. Now just work that out with the plastic pry tool. Slide up. And then we're just gonna need to push in on that black tab to pop off our connector. Pop that clip out and remove your speaker. So now we need to run our wire through our accordion boot here. So I'm gonna pop the sides of the boot off to make it a little bit easier. It's very tight in there. So we're gonna be using this tube. There's a hole back here. We're not really gonna be able to get a camera angle on it, but it goes right through here. I've got a little bit of grease on here since it's very tight inside of there. I'm gonna try to pass this through, and then we'll put our wire through one end of the tube, pull our tube out the other end, pass the wire through. So I'm pulling back that boot so I can see where I'm going, and then we just gotta work this in there. Now I'm just doing a lot of twisting to try to get it through. I can feel where it is inside the boot, so I'm holding there while I bend like this to change the angle. And we'll eventually get this slid all the way through. And I finally got that poking through to the other side. So I'm gonna take my wire and just shove it through that tube. And now I've got it coming through the tube on the other side. So now I'm gonna pull my tube the rest of the way through. And now we've got our wire into the door. So now that we've got our wire into the door, we need to find the wire that's gonna be connecting to. And that's gonna be in this harness running here. So we've got some slack at the bottom, so I'm gonna get a pair of diagonal cutters and just make a cut. Just be very careful that you don't cut one of those wires. And then I'll cut over here as well, and I'll pull back just enough to put our posi tap on. So I'm gonna take my diagonal cutters, and I'm just gonna be very careful. Cut back some of that sheathing. And now we can open up that loom to expose our wire. Now we're going to install our posi tap onto this gray wire with the black stripe. So you're going to take the gray side of the connector off by just unscrewing it. You're going to put the wire through this slot You're gonna hold that steady and then just twist on the red portion. So get that around the wire. It's got the point, it's gonna pierce our wire to make our connection. And then we're gonna run the wire up through the door to the other side of this connector. So now I've got my wire at my speaker hole. I'm gonna run it up through this gap. I'm gonna keep it away from the window so it doesn't get bound up at all. I'm gonna go through that hole, through this, and over here. And then we'll zip tie it up afterwards. And then I'm gonna run this wire around this harness. That's gonna keep it up out of the way so it won't get caught on anything. I'm gonna strip back some lead on this and then I'll insert it into my PowerStep. So now we can unscrew the other side of that PowerStep. I'm gonna put that to the side for now. I'm gonna get my wire strippers, just strip some lead off at the end of that wire. Twist it up. And then we're gonna slide that on. Slide it into our PowerStep. Screw it in. Make sure that wire is pushed in as far as it'll go. And I've got a nice and tight fit. So now we can start reassembling our door panel. Now we're gonna reinstall our speaker so we can throw our door card on here. So grab that connector, plug it back in, and then the bottom is gonna hook onto here. Pull this up, and we're gonna push in for the clip, reinstall the screw, tighten it down with a 7mm socket. It's now ready to reinstall our door card, so I'm gonna get our door release cable on here first. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this ball end and you're gonna put it into that hole, and then we're gonna pull back on the plastic and then press it into that hole. Then we'll get our connectors through the hole. And now hook it over the top. Now we've got everything lined up, we're just gonna give it a few smacks around the edges to engage all of our clips. Next we'll reinstall our door lock. Slide that on. And then press this piece in. And that's gonna lock that into place. Next we'll reinstall our switch panel. Plug in all your connectors. Push that down into place. And then we can reinstall our handle. I try to drop these bolts in first to make it a little bit easier. And then I'll take my 10mm socket on an extension to get my threads started. And then snug those down. And then you can press your cover into place. Now we'll reinstall these last 3 bolts. The one behind the door handle, and then the 2 up here. And grab your ratchet, tighten those down. And then we'll pop our covers back into place. You've got a pin on one side for this one, so line up with that hole. And now we just have our corner piece for the mirror. So line up your clips, press that into place. And now you can repeat that exact same process on the passenger side. Only difference is you're gonna have a white and tan wire instead of the gray and black. Now before we get under there and install our linkages, I'm gonna show you how this is gonna go on the table because you're just not gonna be able to see it when we're underneath the truck. Now on this hole right here, we're going to be installing our silver bolt straight through there. There should be U-clips in your frame. If not, there are U-clips included that you can put in there. Now there's 4 of these sheet metal tabs on the bottom. Our idler pulley, the one without the motor, is going on the very first one, and our motor pulley is going on the last one. So through those sheet metal tabs, we're gonna put the black bolt up and through. That's gonna come up through this hole, and then in there, we're gonna take a nut and thread it onto that bolt. I'm gonna get a socket from the top to tighten it and a wrench from the bottom. Now these are both gonna install exactly the same way. We just have to add our motor to this gear once we have this one installed. So I'm all the way at the back at our very last sheet metal hole here. We've got our U-clip up here. If you don't have one, you're just gonna slide it in through the larger circle hole over to this circle hole. And now we're gonna raise up our pulley with the motor. I'm gonna take my silver bolt, get that threading into the body first. And then I'll take my black bolt through that hole, and I'll get my nut on top. This is the part that I'm not gonna be able to see. And then I'm gonna take a 13mm socket, tighten down that silver top bolt first. And then I'm gonna get that socket on my nut, wrench on the bolt, tighten that one down. And then you can do that exact same thing on the very first sheet metal hole at the front. Now we can install our motor onto our linkages. Now we're gonna do this with the linkage in the downward position. We need to put this black cover on first. It'll hook into this slot. And then our motor is gonna go straight up just like this. Slide that in. If the gear doesn't line up, you can move this around slightly. And then we're gonna take our Torx screws, start threading those in. And then I'm going to take a T25 Torx socket to tighten these down. Now you're tightening plastic into plastic, so don't over tighten this. You just need them snug. So now we're going to finish running our wiring. I'm going to go around this body mount just like we did on the front. And then you can plug your connector into your motor, and we're gonna press this red locking tab into place. And then all we have left to do is the wiring for our light. So we're just gonna be doing red to red, black to black, and then we can double side tape this down onto our rocker. I'll probably put this around here in front of the body mount. So I'm gonna take some wire strippers and strip back some lead off my two wires. Twist up the lead on your two wires. And then I'm going to slide a butt connector onto one end and crimp it down. Do the same thing on my other wire. And then we're going to do the same thing on our light. Now our sheathing's already split, so we can just pull off those ends. Twist it up, and then we're just going to go red to red and black to black. I'll slide my red into the red wire's butt connector, crimp down. Then we're going to do the same thing for the black. Then just give your wires a tug, make sure they're not going anywhere. And then we can peel back our double side tape pad. And then we can stick that down onto our rocker. And then I'm just gonna grab a zip tie, just to pull my harness up here, zip tie it, so it's nice and clean and out of the way. So now I'm just gonna pull my wire up, grab a zip tie, and go around this big harness. Keep everything up and out of the way. And then just snip off the excess with scissors or diagonal cutters. And now you can repeat that same exact process for the light on the front. Now we're finally ready to mount our side step. We've got these two silver brackets in our side step that can slide back and forth. And then there's a slot right in the top of the bracket that it's gonna line up with. Then we have 2 Allen bolts for each of those that we're going to be threading in from the bottom. Now we'll hop underneath of our side step and take a 3/16 Allen socket with our Allen bolts and thread those in. And then just make sure that your side-to-side adjustment is good on your side step, and then you can throw a ratchet on the other side and tighten it down. And then do the same thing on the other side bracket, and then you can repeat the whole process on the other side. And now we can come back to our battery and reinstall our inline fuse. Now we assembled our motor linkages in the downward position, so that's going to be how they will be when the doors open. So I went ahead and opened both doors, and then I'll pop this back in. Cover on, tuck it out of the way. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Amp Research PowerStep running boards for your 2007 to 13 Silverado and Sierra 1500 extended cab and crew cab. Thanks for watching, and for all things Silverado, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.